Let's move to the real estate market in New York City. Rich New Yorkers apparently don't seem to care about the now approved tax on second homes. A new report found that 126 apartments worth $4 million or more were sold last month. Noble Black joins me now. Noble, why isn't the Pied-à-terre tax stopping rich people from buying into New York?
There's so much money chasing very little supply. So we're still well below what we should be historically. And there's so much money just sloshing around out there, right? So there's some people that have pulled back. I've got buyers that have put their search on pause. I've got sellers that have listed. But overall, the market is still so strong that we're overcoming that resistance.
Does it matter to the buyers whether it's a co-op or a condo?
It's always mattered to some degree. The tax that they pass with the Pied-à-terre tax is more confusing with co-ops. People really don't know how that's going to be implemented with the co-ops. But the big bite on the Pied-à-terre tax doesn't come for 2 years anyway. So a lot of people are saying, hey, by the time the litigation is done, by the time people are fighting this, it's going to be a long time before I'm paying something meaningful. So a lot of people are saying, I'll deal with it later.
Doesn't it say a lot about the inexperience of our mayor that it is so complicated that people don't know what this new tax is or how it's going to operate?
Look, a lot of us were very unhappy that they passed something that was so monumental, that has such far-reaching repercussions, potentially with very little research. There were so many unanswered questions about this. Again, a lot of people, may be in pro, con, but there's so many details in this that weren't worked through.
Now, you talked about the limited supply, but the city added more than 38,000 apartment units last year. That's the most since 1965. It sounds good, but the city still has a long way to go.
We're still undersupplied by about 400,000. So if they added 40,000, you're still talking about 10 more years to actually meet the demand that we have. And you're right, that was the most we've had since 1965. But, the last few years, it was up by a few thousand. So it was great. It's welcome. We need more of that. But we're nowhere close to solving the housing issue in the city.
Remember a number of months ago, after Mamdani became the mayor, he met with Trump. And Trump said it was a much more jovial conversation than we thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be a face-off between the two guys, the communists and the capitalists. But in fact, Trump said, he wants the best for New York. He could probably work with him. Is there any way, have you seen any signs that perhaps maybe a public-private partnership or something like the Peter Cooper Village could result from a relationship with Trump?
We haven't seen anything concrete. I think that would be welcome. We need more of that reaching across the aisle. Again, obviously, people can disagree, but everyone wants the best for the city. But no, to answer your question, we haven't seen anything concrete coming out of that. I do think, even with the Pied-à-terre tax, a lot of people objected to that. But the objection wasn't so much the tax itself. It was the mentality and kind of the messaging around it. And I think there's a lot of people on both sides that say, hey, I think taxes are too high, but I don't mind paying taxes if the city's doing it for good, right? It's a matter of trying to bring people together. And I think that's what we need more of.
Now, you have clearly read what Mamdani has written in the past about private property. He said he wants to decommodify private housing, not just for New York, but he wants it as a Marxist. He wants it for the whole country. Doesn't that mean it doesn't concern him whether the housing market goes down the tubes, because it might even make it easier for him to get into that, for the government to buy everything?
Sure. Look, I don't want to get into his motives. There's a lot of people certainly that think that.
But he said it. He's for decommodifying housing, which means taking the tradable tradable value of that asset out of real estate.
Yeah, I think the most worrisome thing to me is they just, as he wanted, they just froze rents for another 2 years, right? So things like that, if you look at what the rent stabilized housing stock, what has happened to the value of that, it has plummeted over the last few years. That kind of speaks to your point. Again, I don't want to say that that's what he's trying to do, but it's certainly not a healthy movement. And you look at every city where they've frozen rents, ultimately the supply of housing goes down. Again, everyone wants lower rents, but we've got to go in a constructive way to get there.
Last one for you. Last week, President Trump canceled the signing of the landmark 21st Century Road to Housing Act. It would have put constraints on institutional investors and fast-tracked the home building and buying process. He says he's not going to veto it, but wants to sign the Save America Act before doing anything else. So is this would the bill help your industry if it's passed?
It'll definitely help. I mean, I do not think it's a magic bullet. If you look at what it's doing, it's a lot of things. A lot of that is removing red tape, right? So it's getting out.
And that's not bad.
That's great, but most of the red tape is at the state and local levels. And at the federal level, that's not what this is really addressing. It does have a small fund that's incentivizing state and localities to come up with ways to streamline that red tape. So it's moving in that direction, and not nearly enough, but look, it's very welcome. It was passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. So I think it's a great thing. I think we need more of that, but it's a very welcome movement.
Final question does the mayor have an open door policy to you or people like you in the real estate business?
From what I hear, yes. I mean, I know people from, kind of my bend on things, and certainly people that disagree with him politically, and to a person, the people that have met with him or his staff have spoken complimentary about the fact that they get the meeting and that they've been heard. I don't know that the result has changed at all, but people at least say that he's welcoming of that type of discourse. Again, I think that's positive. I think a lot of what he has done are the wrong direction for the city. It's not catastrophic. It's just, people can disagree about things. But from what I hear, he is welcome to that. I think there needs to be probably some moderation on policy, not just listening to people,
right.
But at least he's having the conversations.
Noble Black, great to see you.
Thanks for having me.